So for today I have a very special guest, not a regular guild leader, but one from the Scarlet Legion. Say hello to Vahaenys. Welcome.
Hello everybody, thanks for having me.
Hi man. Well, I met you a little bit of a coincidence because I was just leveling or farming my mats at Hilbert Foothills when I encountered you guild doing one very big event. Okay, please tell me, what is the Scarlet Legion about?
Yeah, it seems like you had been caught in the crossfire there of our battle, but we are a Scarlet-themed guild, a branch off of the Crusade. Essentially, the premise is that we kind of, notice the corruption that we, was later found in like Balnazar as Datherhan, and kind of split off to do our own thing free of that corruption, with the fun twist that we're kind of just as prone to it as the rest of the Scarlets.
Okay, well, please tell me, could you share the founding story of the Scarlet Legion and the core mission that drives your guild within the Turtle Well community?
Yeah, so there's kind of two-factor in our foundation. The primary reason being I was kicked from the Scarlet Crusade. There was some stuff that went on a long time ago. It's all ancient history now. More of the in-character reason, is more of the, religious zeal doesn't just disappear. You don't get kicked from one organization and be like, you know what, I don't believe in this anymore. So I figured it was prudent for this character to want to kind of build up his own little empire.
So you were more like a subgroup from the Scarlet Crusade that just went inside another path, for example?
Essentially, yeah, that's not a bad way to describe it. We're not adhering to their command structure. We don't serve a Bendis. We're kind of our own thing. In fact, we're technically at war with the Crusade in our current campaign, trying to carve out a little bit of the Scarlet Empire for ourselves. But yeah, we're technically not affiliated with them outside of the belief system and the fact that we wear red.
Okay, and are you guys consider yourselves more extremist or less extremist or more fanatic is probably the better word to put it?
I think it kind of falls somewhere in between. It's one of those things like we do tend to fall into that religious fanaticism. We are definitely not the most peaceful group, but we do try to, I guess, conceal it a little bit more. A lot of our aggressive tendencies tend to come out when we're in private, like hiding away from people. You'll catch glimpses of it here and there, but the majority of it is we're trying to kind of portray ourselves as different from the Crusade. So, in terms of, interacting with the Alliance and other factions that, similar to that, we kind of have to differentiate ourselves somehow. So we kind of play that politics a little bit more. We kind of lean into the diplomacy and the, like, we're not the bad guys kind of angle.
So more like your enemy, my enemy is your enemy, and therefore you are my friend.
Exactly. We're slowly starting to push towards the big reveal that we're basically doing the same thing. But it's something that we feel should be unveiled in time, slowly, bits by bits,
Okay, very clear. How does your role-playing events and your PvP interaction coexist with each other? How does it work out? Can you give us an example?
So yeah, I mean, you made it the perfect example yourself. Is the Battle of Hillsbrad that we had going on was entirely predicated on the fact that we needed to establish ourselves somewhere that was not riddled by the actual Crusade, and so we figured we would start in Hillsbrad, kind of work our way around and carve out different areas. And so that was our in-character reason to kind of, push through and build a base camp. And as a result, we, the way we're kind of playing it is we have hints now that they are working on something. The Forsaken, right? They're working on this, out of character, it's a new plague, right? And so it kind of gives us a reason to keep pushing forward, like moving into these Forsaken areas rather than focus wholly on the Scourge or on the Crusade. It kind of gives us that story beat to work with there. But that's all of our PvP events. We do the same general thing. There's always a reason behind it, even if it does seem like senseless killing.
So your events are building onto each other and adding to a deeper depth of a bigger story.
Exactly. So this is like an entire kind of mini campaign we have going, which is us trying to halt or slow the progression of this new plague.
Okay, and how do you organize those events? Because if you're swinging your sword around all your characters in game, how can you still RP in that moment?
I will admit it is very difficult to, mechanically PvP and roleplay at the same time. We tend to try to find lulls to throw in some messages and some commands there, but we do have a command structure within the guild, and we do tend to adhere to it even in that PvP structure. So you'll have, like, let's say the general's present, right? He's going to be given the orders, and you're going to be trying to obey and react to that, right? So whereas it might make more sense to just charge headlong into the town, we might, opt for like an encirclement or something kind of like that.
Okay, thank you. The community engagement specifically, how does your guild interact with the community that's on Northernar that are mostly non-RP players? How do you involve them?
Well, we try to get them involved as much as we can. We will still continue our, speeches and our commands and whatnot if we are interacting with the wider Turtle Well community. Whether or not they choose to interact back is entirely their decision, but we still give the order as if they were some kind of auxiliary, somebody that we're just kind of conscripting to come help with us. They more or less, we have positive interactions with them. They enjoy what we do. We often get the cool team mod message, but their involvement is as limited or as unlimited as they want it to be.
Yeah, I can. I am an example of that because I reached out to you. Hey, this is cool. Come on my show, and here we are.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I really appreciate it too because it was a super big event. We tend to pull a lot of people for our PvP events, but that one was particularly large. Almost, I want to say, upwards of 100 people total on both sides combined.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty big, and we plan to do it again. So that's a warning to all the hordes out there.
Okay, you've been warned. Considering a traditional guild, what are specific challenges that an RP guild like yours might face, in contrary to the more vanilla type of guild?
Well, like any RP guild tends to have their fair share of, let's call them interlopers, right? People coming in who aren't RPers who want to intentionally disturb that RP. That's probably the biggest thing. But within like the RP community itself, it is particularly difficult to play the bad guy faction and play it well because you are antagonistic, you are, kind of malicious in the way you act and talk, and my character in particular has a pretty holier than thou kind of attitude, which makes it very hard to interact with other people in general. Usually they understand, it's just an in-character thing, and it's, out of character, we're all generally pretty nice, pretty outgoing, friendly, welcoming. But that is a major hurdle to overcome, is that a lot of people just don't want to interact with you.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. But does your RP also continue in world chat, for example, or in the guild chat?
So we allow people to continue their roleplay in different channels, whether it's out of character channels on the Discord, or it's world chat or whatever. If they choose to, we don't, have anybody specifically enforcing that. It's more of a personal preference. If you want to stay in character 24/7, you are welcome to do so.
Well, that sounds exhausting, but pretty cool.
Hey man, you gotta commit to the bit, right?
Yeah, I get that. What are your core guild cultures and values?
Mostly it is to embody the Scarlets as much as we can. Obviously it's easier said than done given the amount of information that we have available. But that is the big thing, is to remain Scarlet, right? We don't want to lean too far towards what would be considered like Argents or too far into what would be just crazy militants, right? There's a fine balance in between. That's like the big thing that we push. Aside from that, it's make sure that the role play that we conduct with people is more or less consensual, right? We don't want to force our beliefs on people more than we have to, and we don't want to take control of the situation in a way that's unfair to other players. And I think generally people have come to appreciate that about our guild, so.
I think it's very funny that you roleplay as a religious fanatic and then say we don't want to push that more than necessary as well.
We do push it. We try to push it where we can, but you can only force someone to convert to the light so many times, right? Before it becomes just obnoxious.
And then you just kill them.
Yeah, if they'll let us, that's the key.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh, good answer. Okay, for recruitment and membership, how do you recruit potential new RPers for your guild specifically? Is there a certain trial or a certain application that people have to go through?
So you just open up the largest can of worms there is to open, But, basic recruitment is pretty simple. We tend to either be around, be a presence, we'll give speeches in public, we'll go on marches, we'll hold events, welcome to other people into it, and kind of see if they're interested in it. We do have a more rigorous application process, I would say, in that we require all people to meet with us and RP with us for a while to see if we're a good fit for them and they're a good fit for us. Because it is kind of an extreme style of roleplay. It is hard to get into, and you have to be willing to do it. But even deeper than that, we have trials in character, these processes and these things you must undergo in order to progress through the guild. We do initiation ceremonies. You're not really a full member until you've been in for a while and you attend one of these ceremonies, swear an oath, all that kind of stuff. But we take those things very seriously. I like to think that we tend to lean towards the more extreme end of serious RP.
Oh wow, so cool that even if you come in your guild, that you still have to earn your keep in a RP sense. That's a lot of dedication and really admirable.
Yeah, thank you. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of trial and error with that, but we feel it's kind of important when you're joining a holy order to have it feel like you are making a major change in your life, which is why we make this grandiose initiation ceremony. We make everyone come in, swear their oaths. We usually have extra things added to that event to kind of cement it and solidify it. But we're very theatrical with it because it should feel like it's important, like it's a major sacred thing that you're doing.
Okay, what are your future plans? One of the big plans that you have laying ahead of your guild, the Scarlet Legion.
I mean, there is a great many, world domination not being excluded there. But primarily right now we're trying to wrap up our Legacy of the Crimson Throne campaign, which has us kind of chasing after what's left after Datherhan was exposed and defeated, which is also what leaves us at war with the Crusade, which is a very interesting little story beat. But after that, we're turning our attention to our core values, right? The Scourge, the liberation of Lordaeron, and in our case, Quel'Thalas as well, and kind of turning it on the Horde and the Scourge as a whole, kind of focusing on them a bit. But most of our efforts are completely centric to that Lordaeonian Quel'Thalas kind of area.
Okay, one piece of advice for aspiring roleplayers could you give them if you have to put that in one sentence?
One sentence: don't be afraid to walk up. Don't be afraid to walk up and interact with strangers. You get a lot out of that.
Okay, thank you very much for this great story. I think this was one of the most original guilds I ever have had on this show thus far. So thank you very much for going into the next metal songs I had. With what shall I start it with? Up to you.
I think a fitting song would be Lynx by Rammstein.
Lynx 2, 3, 4. Very, very learning. Very good. Here is Lynx 2, 3, 4. Have a good evening, man. Thank you very much.
You as well. Thank you, brother.